Hello, people. I thought it was time we did another one. So this is night time. I don't normally record these during the evening, during darkness, but I have various lights around the house and it seems to be okay. So hope it reaches you in at least reasonable quality. This is a slightly more technical one today. I've been planning on doing this for quite some time. Now then, in our profession, I think a lot of the time we confuse activity with learning. This is why sometimes we look for, things to do. What can I do with them? I go on about this in previous clips as well. So we often think about keeping our classes busy and surface level activity, filling up that hour, keeping those people going, but really my argument is that this is more a question of events management. So what I'd like to do today is talk about three common activities, three common classroom scenarios that we can do that on the one hand could just result in dead activity, fruitless activity, or with a little tweak could result in actual learning. And there are two principles. There are two principles at play, and I'm going to try and make this relatively quick. The first principle is basically, if you ask students to produce some language, they will say what they know, and they'll say what they always say if they're asked to produce language on the spot. So we can say, they need to practice what they know. Yes, they do, but they need to be able to take it, they need encouragement to take it to the next level. So if you say to a student, tell me about your favourite food, they'll say pizza. They'll say pizza forever. And that's as far as you'll get. That's the first principle. Second principle is really a question we can ask ourselves with any activity. And the question is, where is the input? And if the answer is there is no input, then probably there's no learning going on. So, three common activities that we might do with our students. Number one, it's something I've done many, many times. It's called a board rush. I'll explain it briefly in case you have different names for it or you know it by a different name. The way that I've always done this, and I often do it with sort of tweens, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, more than older teens. Maybe 2 rows, 2 teams, 3 teams or 4 teams. Divide the board in half or in thirds or a quarter. Each team gets a section of the board. Teacher stands there, gives the first person in each line a piece of chalk or a ball pen and says, okay, you've got to run to the board and write a word beginning with the letter, and then the teacher makes it up, T. And then they all run, write a word, they come back, give the pen to the next person, and then the teacher maybe gives them another letter. Sometimes we might say it has to be a word connected to nature or a word connected to... Sometimes we might say, you're not allowed numbers, you're not allowed proper names. I played this game many, many times. What happens is the students, they write the words that they already know. So it is basically, it's an exercise in movement. It might re-energise the class, but as an actual learning experience, it doesn't give them a lot. How can we change that? Let's imagine that instead of just asking them to think of words, because at the end of the day, they'll go for the words that they always know, they'll all write sort of tree or town or tongue or teeth if we ask them to. Let's say we give them some input. Imagine that everybody in the class has a fact sheet, a pamphlet, a leaflet. Let's say a fact sheet about what to do if you find a hedgehog that needs help. Let's imagine that. Let's imagine it's a fact sheet from the British Hedgehog Preservation Society. Everybody's got a fact sheet, and we say, run to the board, write a letter beginning with T, but it's got to be a word, write a word beginning with T, but it's got to be a word that is on the pamphlet, is on the fact sheet. So now we've got them actually engaging with the literature, albeit on a fairly cursory, sort of rapid level, superficial level, but they're checking, they're running, they're finding the word, they're coming back, we say, now find a word that begins with C. And so they're actually referring to something, there is some linguistic input. If you want to improve on that, and one of my little mottos is there's always one simple thing you can do to improve on any activity. You could give them 5 minutes before the game. Here's the fact sheet. I'm going to be asking you to write words beginning with various letters. Why don't you have a look at the fact sheet and find a couple of words beginning with A, find a couple of words beginning with B, label them, make some arrows, get yourselves ready for the game. Now we've got a class of students preparing for the game. They still get the game, they still get the movement, but they are also digesting the language on the pamphlet, and that can be used afterwards as an entry point. Once we've finished our board rush and the words are all on the board, if we ask them not to rub them out, then we can say, okay, so what word did you find beginning with T? And then we can find it in the text. Okay, what word goes before that? What word goes after? What type of word is it? Is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it an adverb? And what does that whole sentence mean? And then we've created an entry point for a text. You may think to yourself, that's all very good, Christopher, but I haven't got an information sheet from the British Hedgehog Preservation Society. To which I reply, you could have, because they've kindly agreed for me to share their website and link and logo, and you can go to their website and download various pamphlets from them. But my point is, it could be anything. It could be a text it could be the next reading from the book. It could be a pamphlet that you've picked up from a museum. You've picked up the versions in English. It could be anything, but there's input. That's the first scenario. Second scenario, second activity. Everybody stands in a circle. This is often used as an icebreaker at the beginning of the year. Teacher has a ball, some screwed up paper, throws the ball, and everybody has to say their name. And then the teacher changes it. Now you have to say your favourite food. After a couple of rounds of that, now you have to say your favourite animal, your favourite colour. Again, what's going to happen? If students are left to their own devices, they're going to take the easy route. They are, they're like water. They'll take the easy route, as Bruce Lee told us, the path of least resistance. They'll say what they've always said. You'll get lots of students telling you, they like cats and pizza. So again, the question is, where's the input? It's nice standing in a circle, throwing a ball to each other and all saying something. But if there's nothing there, if there's no input, again, we've got dead activity. What can we do? We can prime them. Before we play that game, while everybody is still sitting down, we say, okay, I want you to write on a piece of paper, write your first name, write your favourite colour, your favourite animal, and your favourite food. Everybody does that. I mean, they'll all be writing down, blue, cats, pizza. Next to that, now, I want you to write in a sentence why your parents decided to call you that name. I want you to write next to your favourite colour, I want you to write 3 objects that you can see in this classroom or through the window that are that colour. Next to your favourite animal, I want you to write 3 things that animal eats. And next to your favourite food, I want you to write 5 ingredients that go into that food. Aha! Now we're taking them outside their comfort zone. Now they're going to be thinking, okay, so, how do I say flour or dough or mass for my pizza? How do I say, plankton and krill for whatever, whatever kind of marine animal is my favourite. They'll be looking around the class. They'll be hopefully naming things that they haven't. So we're taking them outside. We're creating the need for language. Obviously, at this point, teacher gets on our bicycle and we can help them. And then we can play the game. And it's not just your favourite animal. Throw the ball, your name, why you were called that. Throw the ball after a few rounds of that, say your favourite animal, 3 things it eats. So we're pushing the level. There is some input. The input comes from the students need to be able to say something in English. Either they're looking on their phones, they're looking in a dictionary, they're asking the teacher, but we're creating a vacuum, a need for language, and then we're practicing it. There is, again, there's some learning, there's some input. Third scenario, a very similar game. I know it, I think, as fruit salad. I don't know where the name came from, but it's the game where everybody sits in a circle rather than stands in a circle. And the teacher says, change places if you're wearing grey trainers. Again, it's a game that we often use as an energizer. We often use it probably at the tweens, 10, 11, 12 age range, rather than older teens. Again, if we hand this over to the class and say, okay, now it's your go, everybody's going to go swap places if you're wearing, swap places if you like. And again, they're going to say the language that they always say. So how can we guarantee that this isn't just dead activity, superficial activity that looks good, that doesn't go anywhere? Well, again, we give them time to prepare their swap places if, and we give them a structure. For example, if we're studying the present perfect, we say, your sentences have to have the present perfect in. We give them some stems on the board. Swap places if you have da-da-da-da-da-da this morning. Swap places if you have da-da-da-da-da-da so far today. Swap places if you have ever. Swap places if you haven't ever. And then we check their sentences beforehand. We give them some feedback, maybe some correction, some support. Then the game is the final, it's the finale, it's the end point of that creative process. But we're guiding them. And again, we're giving them some structure so they're not just reaching for those bits of language that really are not going to take them anywhere. That, my friends, is, as far as I'm concerned, how to stop some of the, more common go-to energizers, icebreakers, warmers, how to stop them just being students running through the motions without any real language learning to them. And we can apply the same logic to other activities. We're already at 12 minutes, so I think you've heard enough from me for today. But remember the 2 principles. If you don't provide a little bit of structure, a little bit of help, and a little bit of a nudge, students will reach for the language that they've always used. That's the first thing. Second thing, the question you can ask yourself for any activity is, where is the input? Thanks once again to the British Hedgehog Preservation Society for agreeing to let me mention their materials and include the links. You'll find those if you fancy doing something about hedgehogs, rather adorable creatures, I think. The rest is strength and energy with your teaching. All the best, dear.